Hey, it's Candy. Did you know that I have a quiz to help coaches choose their niche? Yeah, I do. It's super popular and it has been taken more than 20,000 times. This is a fun quiz that takes you about 2 minutes to do, and it will probably give you way more clarity on choosing your best coaching niche. So now, whether you say niche or niche, it's going to work for you. And if you're a coach and you have been stuck in niche indecision, wondering what to do, then you should take my quiz and find out what you learn. You can take the quiz today at coachnichequiz.com. That's coachnichequiz.com. Okay, let's dive into this week's episode.
AccessCast, an Accessibility initiative, presents Unstoppable Mindset, the podcast where inclusion, diversity, and the unexpected meet. Hi, I'm Michael Hinkson, Chief Vision Officer for Accessibility and the author of the #1 New York Times bestselling book, Thunderdog, the story of a blind man, his guide dog, and the triumph of trust. Thanks for joining me on my podcast as we explore our own blinding fears of inclusion, unacceptance, and our resistance to change. We will discover the idea that no matter the situation or the people we encounter, our own fears and prejudices often are our strongest barriers to moving forward. The Unstoppable Mindset podcast is sponsored by Accessibility, that's ACCESSI, Visit www.accessibility.com to learn how you can make your website accessible for persons with disabilities and to help make the internet fully inclusive by the year 2025. Glad you dropped by. We're happy to meet you and to have you here with us. Well, hi there. This is your host, Mike Hingson, and you are listening to Unstoppable Mindset, where inclusion, diversity, and the unexpected meet. I love to say that every so often, but here we are once again, and now we are talking with Simon Sansom, who is over in England. So it is about 7:36 in the evening there, and it's 11:36 where I am. So, Simon, welcome to Unstoppable Mindset. Simon is he's going to talk about Snowball, and I don't want to give that away. He also is a person with a disability. So again, welcome to Unstoppable Mindset.
Thank you very much. It's a pleasure to be here.
Now, I am curious about something that just popped into my head. Do you all have daylight savings time over there that takes effect at some point?
Yes, we do. Yes.
When will that start?
No idea whatsoever. It just pops up on my iPhone and changes itself these days.
Yeah.
I need to get into it.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. I mean, best thing from working at home doesn't really affect me.
Yeah.
So
well,
it's not like I lose an hour or gain an hour because I just stay in bed or get up, get up when I need to. So, yeah.
Now I'm just really curious. I'm going to look at my calendar. I think
it's April.
Is it all the way to April?
Yeah.
Okay. Over there, it's April. Well, here, daylight savings time begins. Daylight saving time begins next Sunday. So you can tell we're recording this in advance of when it's going to actually go up, everyone. But daylight savings time here in the U.S. begins on March 10th. So time flies, however, when you're having fun, I guess.
There is a rumor over here that daylight savings time was actually created by Benjamin Franklin so he could play golf in Scotland.
Is that what it was?
Apparently so, but obviously we've got nothing to verify that, but that's the rumor.
Well, yeah, but it didn't get implemented all that soon. But, on the other hand, Benjamin Franklin is also one of the main characters in the new James Potter series, The Outgrowth of the Harry Potter books.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Because he is the chancellor of Alma Alaron, which is the American or U.S. School of Magic. So he's been around a while, this guy Franklin. He's done a lot of stuff. But anyway, nevertheless, welcome to Unstoppable Mindset, and we're really glad that you're here. Why don't you start by telling us kind of about the early Simon growing up and some of those things?
Yeah, of course. I grew up in a village called Birstall in Leicestershire. That if you, for most people, nobody knows where Leicestershire is. Everyone thinks of Nottingham when they think of Leicestershire because it's because of Robin Hood. So
Hmm.
Nottingham, Sherwood Forest is about 40 miles north of Leicestershire. However, we have become more famous over the recent years. We won the Premiership in 2016 in Leicester City, which was a fantastic thing for the city. And then Richard III. Interesting fact: it was found under my car parking space, Dicky 3. I was working for social services at the time, and they found Dicky 3 under my car parking space, so that was fun.
Oh my
Um,
gosh.
I know, but no, grew up in a normal house. Mum, three sisters. Went to school, was dyslexic, wasn't diagnosed, so I did terribly at school. Great at cricket, loved the sport, played a bit of rugby, and yeah, just I suppose really, I worked all the like Saturday jobs. I worked in a fruit and veg shop from the age of 14 to 16, getting up at four o'clock in the morning, going to work for a few hours, then going to school, falling asleep at school, and then
I've
going
done
back
that
to close,
before.
yeah, and then going to close the shop up at night. And I did that for £1.25 an hour, which was child slave labor. Yeah, so really your average childhood, nothing really exciting going on there.
So did
So
you ever go to Sherwood Forest?
many times, it's a nice walk. Yeah.
Is it?
We go on there on a regular basis due to the fact that it's you can hire they're called trampers over here. It's a big mobility scooter. And so you can go around Sherwood Forest in the mobility scooter. So we go there quite a lot because it's a nice outing.
What kind of trees?
Big oak,
Oak.
big tall
Uh-huh.
ones. Yeah. Willows, oaks, and lots more. It's a forest.
And
There's lots.
how big is the forest?
Absolutely no idea whatsoever.
Hmm.
It's big. It's a forest.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a good few miles across, good few miles wide. You're going to get lost in it if there wasn't a path.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Well, and it's nice that after all these years and all the reputation that it has and Robin Hood hiding in it and living there and all that, that it really does still stand and people honor it, which is cool.
Yes. The best thing about Robin Hood, Prince of Thieves, if you've seen it, he arrives in Dover by sea, and then by night he's walked to Nottingham, which is about 250 miles.
He's fast. Hey, when you got to go after the sheriff, you've got a mission, you got to do it.
Yeah. So fast-paced walk of him and Morgan Freeman.
Yeah. Well, my favorite movie is actually a slightly different one. It's called Robin and the Seven Hoods. Have you ever seen it?
Is that I don't know if no, I'm thinking of Robin Hood Men in Tights. It's not
Yeah.
that one. Yeah.
Yeah. Robin and the Seven Hoods stars, well, the Rat Pack, basically.
Okay.
And so Bing Crosby is no, Frank Sinatra is Robbo. It takes
Yep.
place in Chicago during the gang times. So Frank Sinatra is Robbo. Dean Martin is John or Little John. Bing Crosby was Friar Tuck and other people. Peter Falk was Guy Gisborne.
Okay.
And so they had all the characters. It was really a cute movie. I've always loved to watch that movie. It's a lot of fun. So, and needless to say, it was a comedy, and at the end, most everybody ends up behind, concreted in behind a wall, except for Friar Tuck, who gets the girl.
Fair enough.
I think Robbo doesn't get walled up either, but it's a fun movie. But anyway, no Sherwood Forest. It's all on the south side of Chicago.
Oh, okay.
But anyway, so did you go to college?
I went to college and dropped out, and then moved to Spain because I just didn't get along with college. Well, the thing is, because I was undiagnosed dyslexic.
Yeah.
And in the 80s and 90s, it wasn't really recognized as a thing.
No.
So I really couldn't read or write until I was 15, 16. So I didn't go to I went to a college, but the college isn't what college is in America. Or secondary rather than higher education. So we go primary school, high school, college, university.
Okay.
And so I went to Leicester College what did I do there? It was film, I think. Yeah.
Huh.
For about a year, dropped out, and then got a job in Scotland. And moved to Scotland just on a whim, and became a trainee manager in a hotel. And the idea is I wasn't going to be rich. But I thought if I could be a waiter, if I can be a barman, if I can be the head of the departments in a hotel in the catering industry, then I've got a job for life.
Yeah.
So I've got a backup plan. So because once you've worked in a bar and a restaurant, or you've been a chambermaid, which I've done, or kitchen sous chef, or whatever, you can pretty much walk into any job anywhere and just, you're always going to have a job if you
You
need
can
to.
you can find things. Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. And that was the plan because I didn't have an education behind me. And
And
then,
and I'm
yeah,
amazed at the number of people, and I shouldn't be because I understand the history, who happen to have dyslexia or who were on what we would say now is on the autism spectrum, who were never diagnosed. Um,
yes,
I've talked to a number of people here on Unstoppable Mindset who talked about the fact that they were autistic and didn't even know it until they were in their 30s or even 40s.
yeah,
And it was very freeing to figure it out because they knew they were different, but they didn't understand what was really going on with them. And then
yeah,
in the last 15 or 20 years, they finally got enough of a diagnosis, a lot of information. So they figured it out even before the medical profession did.
yeah. Same thing that happened with me. It was late diagnosis.
Yeah.
Right. After Scotland, I moved back down to move in with my sister to help her out because she had a child, and she was struggling. She was a single mother, and so I got a job working at British Gas in Leicester, which is in the call center. And after after a painstaking working a 9 to 5 job in a call center, I thought I don't want to do this for the rest of my life.
Yeah.
So I returned to education, and I returned to Loughborough College, which is up the road. And my then teacher, my sociology teacher, after handing in my first assignment as a mature student, she went, "Right, you're dyslexic, have an assessment." And that's when it
Wow.
really, yeah, and that's when it changed. That's when everything changed for me.
So what changed and why did it? Well, I can understand the why.
Well, after the diagnosis, I got the support I needed
What
that I didn't realize myself that I needed.
what
So
kind
I
of
got
support?
extra reading lessons, extra tuition, how to read and write, how to spell, very patient teachers, and a lot more encouragement as well from the college, which then helped me go on to university as well. So, yeah.
So your teachers helped you teach your brain to connect and be able to
Yeah.
eventually really recognize.
Yes. So I learn very visually. I
Uh-huh.
can't really read very well. However, I'm an excellent writer, which is ironic. Um, and I was writing everything because I enjoyed writing so much, but I couldn't read for toffee. I couldn't read out loud. And if I would sit there and reading a book, I would I call them brain farts, but they're memory lapses or something, where you can read a whole page or 3 or 4 pages of a book and you can read it absolutely fine, but I have got no idea what's happened in those three
Yeah.
pages. The information just doesn't stay there.
Yeah. The
Uh,
disconnect is still pretty strong.
yes, very much so. So I learn visually. So I mean, back in the day, I was a huge film fan, and that explains the reason why.
Yeah. But you could write. So you could
Yes.
communicate,
Yes.
and whether you, I assume probably more often than not, you wrote via a keyboard.
Yeah, very much so. I also
Yeah.
used something called Dragon Talk back in the day as
Yeah.
well, which
But
was
you
dictation.
don't, how did you do with like writing with a pen or a pencil?
No, I can do that quite well.
You can
That's
do
not.
that quite well as
Yeah,
well. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I kept a
Well,
journal as well. I kept a diary.
ah,
Um, yeah, just because it helped me to write. So
do you still
yes,
use Dragon?
no, 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 God, no, it's atrocious. I haven't used it for about 15 years, so I don't know where it is now. It might have
Oh
improved.
gosh, it is incredibly much better than it used to be when it was Dragon Dictate. Now it's Dragon Naturally Speaking. I use it a lot, and when I discover it has mispronounced, I can read, or not mispronounced, but misrecognized, or misinterpreted. I can correct it, and it doesn't take much in the way of corrections. But Dragon is so much better than it used to be.
Uh,
I use Dragon Professional, and I do type a lot. and
Mm,
compose a lot. But I also find when I'm doing something that takes a while to do because it's long, it's
mm.
much better to use Dragon to do it.
Yes. No, I never really got along with Dragon. I used
Mm,
it, but I wasn't a big fan of it. But however, the dictation on like my Mac and my phone is absolutely perfect for me. I
yeah,
can write. We'll come to it shortly, but I'm a journalist as well now, and so I can write a story within 10 minutes,
yeah.
uh, 500 or 1,000 words within a few minutes. It's great.
And you would find that Dragon has that same level of accuracy because I think a lot of the algorithms went from Dragon to other technologies or the other way around. But Dragon is really great today.
Yeah.
So I can't complain a lot about Dragon. It really does help a great deal. And it's a whole lot cheaper than it used to be, but that's another story.
Yeah.
Of course, the original Kurzweil reading machine for the blind that read print out loud by being able to look at a page and recognize the characters. The original Ray Kurzweil machine was $50,000, and now you could get free OCR on an iPhone or an Android device, or very inexpensive anyway. And optical character recognition is a commonplace kind of thing anyway. So
Yes.
a lot different than it used to be. The world does progress and move forward.
It certainly does.
So
Yeah.
you did eventually go to university. What did you do there?
Yeah, so the first time I went to university, because I went twice, I did criminology. Oh, what a
Ah,
waste! Because I was enjoying writing so much, I thought I'd like to be a crime writer. What a waste of a time! If you want to learn about crime, you don't go and do criminology at university. So because it was so boring and so dull, I dropped out after the
yeah,
second year.
yeah.
Again, I mean, I was doing okay. I was getting about 50s, so two-ish at university, but I really wasn't enjoying it and I wasn't putting any effort into it. And so, yeah, I dropped out and looked for a job and went to work for the council. So,
The council being,
yeah. So I worked for the local authority, Leicester City
oh,
Council.
okay,
Yeah,
the city council.
yeah,
Okay, great.
yeah.
Okay,
Yes. So I,
that
I
was
wanted.
different.
It was very interesting because I wasn't enjoying university. That was the thing.
Yeah.
Um,
And so
and
and so you decided to leave criminology at the university and go look at the criminals of the council, right?
pretty much,
Yeah.
yeah. I started off in housing. I worked there as a housing assistant for a couple of years, working up there. And then after a number of years, getting a bit of experience under my belt, doing some volunteering for youth services, I moved on to social services, and I was there till I left the council.
Hmm.
And that was an education. I did that for about 8 years, and
So
yeah, that and nothing prepares you for working for social services, going to see
no.
people intimate house, into their homes, their immediate environments, how people live, the poverty, the destruction, the drugs, the deaths,
Yeah.
everyone's everyday life that you take for granted. And it certainly was an eye-opening experience and a very worthwhile life education.
Yeah. At the same, yeah, it is a great education. At the same time, when you do it and you care, you're also
Yeah.
hopefully able to help people and make a difference, even if it's with
That,
one
that,
life.
that was the intention. So I was specializing in adult mental health and physical disabilities by the time I left.
Uh-huh.
And what you see every day is you try and get some positives from it because you are saving lives and you're trying to make people safe, and that's your job. And at the end of the day, you get people who just don't care and just want to die and
Yeah.
try to kill themselves. And yeah, it's people dying on you every day. Especially if you cover the hospitals, that's interesting. I got transferred to one of the hospitals here in Leicestershire, and but even before I had a case or went to see a patient to get them discharged from hospital, I had like 9 deaths on my table.
Wow.
And so I got transferred back just in case I thought I was killing people.
Yeah.
'Cause even though I hadn't seen anyone.
So do you think you ever really did make a positive difference to any of those people who were really losing hope or who had lost hope? Were you
I
able to
mean,
help?
the thing is because you're the first point of call. So I was on effectively emergency call outs. So you go and make sure that person is safe. You make sure they've got food, make sure they're okay, and then you pass it on to a long-term team. So mine was the emergency intermediary department, like working with the police, ambulance service, firemen, and so on and so forth. We would do joint visits. And so I really never got to see the long-term effects. I was there to put the plan in place and then let a longer team manage that person and the care plan or whatever was needed. So
Well, it is a process, no doubt. So
yeah.
when did you leave the council? What year was that?
That was when was that? That was 2015.
Ah, okay.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
and then what did you go do? Because at some point after that,
Yeah.
your life changed.
My life changed. So it actually changed while I was working for the council. So I became disabled in 2014.
Okay.
So we're not 100% sure how the injury happened. I'll explain. So I was doing rugby training at Victoria Park during that week. And we also had a ton of bark delivered to our driveway because our driveway needed doing. Um, and so I slipped a disc, and I don't know
Hmm.
if it's from the bark or it's from playing rugby. That I don't know, or rugby training. Anyway,
Not from
um,
cricket.
not from cricket. No, I had played cricket for a while since then. I played it as a
Cricket,
lad, not before then.
cricket is very slow.
Oh, cricket's amazing. It's more technical than baseball.
Yeah, I know. I understand. When I visited New Zealand and listened to some cricket on the radio, and it was really hard to follow because it generally does move pretty slow. So I know it's very technical, and I never really caught on to the rules.
Yeah,
I did figure out rugby a lot more than I was able to figure out
yeah.
cricket.
But rugby is 80 minutes. I mean, cricket lasts for 5 days. It's beautiful.
Yeah, I understand. But you have to take the time to really learn the rules. And
Yeah.
I didn't have enough time to really listen to the radio, I guess.
No, that's fine.
Anyway,
Yeah, so I had a slip disc. I've had a slip disc before, and normally I would take some ibuprofen, do my exercises, try and pop it back in. On this occasion, me and Kate, my new wife, we were going away on a honeymoon to Mexico. And so I went to see a chiropractor in the local area, and it was doing well. You know, I was getting better. I was exercising more. I was walking further. I took a few weeks off work because it was really very uncomfortable and couldn't really visit people in their homes when I'm really uncomfortable. However, on the fifth or sixth visit, this newly trained chiropractor decided she was going to have a go at putting the disc back in for my honeymoon,
mm,
and she crushed levels 3, 4, and 5 of my spine while doing that. Um, and that hurt. I screamed. I didn't know what she did. I thought she slipped. I thought because she warned me it was going to hurt. Yeah. And it did. It really did. Okay. And I couldn't get my shoes on, so she helped me get my shoes on, and effectively she just threw me out after I screamed. I think she knew something had gone wrong. I didn't know at the time. I just thought she put my disc back in because I was in so much pain. I collapsed outside where Kate was waiting for me in the car, and I went home and said, "Look, I'm just going to go to bed. I'll sleep it off." And the following morning, I woke up. I thought I had a stroke because I had no sensation from the waist down.
mm.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So,
my wife was a T3 para, so
yeah.
it was basically from the bottom of the breast down. But
Yeah.
I understand exactly what you're saying.
Yeah. So it was a very unusual situation. I didn't know what to do. Kate had gone to work that morning. We lived in a cul-de-sac, a dead end road for you and me.
Hmm.
If you
Oh,
don't know.
nope, no cul-de-sacs very well. That's okay.
Yeah, okay, that's fine. I wasn't too sure on the terminology for the American
Nope,
audience.
it's
Um,
it's a term over here too.
cool, excellent. And so I was shouting for assistance. There's nobody there. I didn't have my phone on me. The phone was downstairs. And so I threw myself out of bed, did an army crawl, threw myself down the stairs, butt naked. And I don't really remember a lot after that. I don't mean apparently my mum came round, apparently the ambulance came round. But I don't remember a lot what happened. I really
Hmm.
don't. What I know is when I was taken to hospital, I had an MRI. Don't remember the MRI at all. Obviously, I'm under painkillers at this time, and there's a lot going
Yeah.
on, and I'm in shock because I'm paralyzed from the waist down. And yeah, they did an MRI. The emergency doctor said it was Cordia equina syndrome. Cordia equina syndrome is fully recoverable if you get an operation within 24 or 48 hours. However, for whatever reason, and we still don't know the answer to this, the consultant overruled the A&E doctor and said it's not Cordia equina syndrome, and they put me on the ward for 3 months,
Hmm.
not knowing what to do with me because they didn't know what was wrong with me. And by that time the damage had been done because you needed to do it within a 48-hour window to stop any permanent damage.
Yeah.
But no, they left me there, and I was unfortunately left there to rot for 3 months. The damage had been done, and then I was paralyzed from the waist down for forever. I'm a full-time wheelchair user now.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. By then it was irreversible and there was nothing you could do.
yeah, very much so. Yeah.
So, um, as a paraplegic, can you now, well, I'm assuming that you then went through some sort of physical therapy and
Yeah,
strength building and so on?
yeah, yeah, absolutely. So I went for physio for a while. I mean, some of it has come back. Some of it did come back for a while. They said you're probably going to get better for a while, but then it's going to deteriorate again.
Mm-hmm.
So I got to the point where after a year, I could walk, 200 meters maybe with a walking stick and a frame. So I was getting out, I could walk slightly. I could,
Yeah.
so that wasn't too bad. Okay. However, then I got a drop foot, so that went. So I couldn't really walk anymore because I got no balance, and then the other sensation went in my legs. So I got to a point where I could walk slightly, a little, and then it started disappearing over the
Mm-hmm.
years. It's been 10 years now. So now I've got about in my right leg, I'd say about 10% sensation, but my drop foot, there's nothing at all. I can't feel it, so you can chop it off and I wouldn't notice. And in my left leg, I've probably got about 10% usage. So I can move my legs, I just can't feel anything.
Mm-hmm.
And then my bowels and bladder have gone as well. So I've got to self-catheterize and stuff as well.
Yeah, which my wife always had to do. She
Yeah.
was born with scar tissue on her spinal cord, so she's
Okay.
always been that way. She's always been a para.
Yeah.
So obviously, huge difference in your lifestyle going forward.
Yeah.
And how did you cope with all that? What did you do? What did you decide to do? Because you strike me as a person who isn't going to let a lot of grass grow under your feet, as it were.
Well, I mean, we didn't know well, this is the thing. We were stuck because I couldn't work. Okay. And work had made me take ill health retirement. They didn't want me back at work. Even though I didn't want to do that, I was forced to take ill health retirement at 32. Me and Kate, this is where me and Kate were very sensible, is because Kate was earning a good wage, I was earning a good wage, and we brought a house that was in case any of us lost our jobs, we could still afford the mortgage and the bills. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Wouldn't leave us with a lot of money, but we wouldn't lose the house.
Right.
So if we brought a huge, because we had a nice 3-bed semi-detached, it was a really nice house, but we could have afforded a house double the size. But if we did that, we'd be really stretching ourselves. So because we were sensible, that gave me the option to go, and we needed to cover the mortgage effectively because the bills and the mortgage were effectively Kate's wage, and so we didn't have really any money to live on. We're talking about 20-30 pound a week after all the bills have come out and the mortgage. So I decided that I was going to return to university to retrain. After pretty much the day afterwards, Leicester City Council told me I had to take ill health retirement, and I applied to university to do journalism because I enjoyed writing.
Did the health retirement then give you some income?
Very little. We took, 100. It was £134 a month.
Mm.
And it still is about, I think it's gone up to inflation like £150 a month. I get it out for life.
Not much.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Because, I was 32. There's no money in the pot for ill health retirement.
Yeah.
But what would happen is it would give us time to sort things out. And the student loan would cover any food bills or, anything we needed for 3 years. So it gives us a little leeway. So it gives us a little bit of an income. It takes the pressure off Kate. And so I returned to university. to train as a journalist, and that's again where everything started to change again. So
But you could write, so there you go.
yes, yeah. I couldn't spell. I still can't spell, but I could tell a story.
Yeah,
Um, so I can get it checked by Kate or my mum or whoever. So yeah, it was interesting. So yeah, I got accepted and I was twice the age of everyone else there, which was a little bit embarrassing, but I didn't really care. I was more mates with, I'm still in contact with him actually. I'm still, and this is like 2000, what, 15 until 18, I graduated. Yeah, I'm still in contact on Facebook and stuff with all my lecturers, not the people I went to university with, because yeah,
yeah.
but all the lecturers I'm still in contact with. So
So, I want to come back and continue the story, but now I'm a little bit curious. Given the way things work over here, a lot of times,
yeah,
somebody clearly made a mistake in terms of dealing with your diagnosis and so on. Did you ever think about any kind of litigation or going after them legally and looking for funds that way or anything like that?
we had to. Never sued anyone in my life. Never wanted to.
Yeah,
Um, but we're getting to the point where wheelchairs are expensive, equipment's getting expensive, mobility scooters are expensive. We need an adapted vehicle, crutches, medication. Um, we need carers. We need, personal help with personal
right.
care. I had incontinence pad, which was really expensive. Um, and so we didn't realize at the time how expensive having a disability was. So we got to the point where we had to take legal action. Um, and we sought a lawyer. We got recommended one. And after 5 years, they settled. It didn't go to court.
Hmm.
Um, and so that was put in a trust for my protection. Um,
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
because I am going to deteriorate later in life, and the cost of that is going to be extortionate. So that is well protected. So yeah,
Yeah, it's unfortunate that you have to do that sometimes. My um, involvement in litigation was that I was thrown off of an airplane because of my guide dog,
mm,
and we sued. We eventually settled. It's years ago. It was back in the early 1980s.
yeah,
Um, it's an education to go through the process, and it did go to court. There was eventually a settlement, but it was even really hard to get a good jury because some of the original people who were potential jurors worked for airlines or knew people who worked for airlines. And so they said they'd be prejudiced. And it didn't matter that a blind person with a guide dog was ejected from an airplane simply because of the dog. Of
yes,
course, today
yeah,
that couldn't happen. Well, it could happen, but it would.
it can. It still does.
It
It
does.
happens.
It does.
Yeah,
But the laws are more substantive. But even so,
yeah,
lawsuits are really not an easy thing at all. And there's a lot of emotion that goes into it, and there's a lot that one has to decide they want to put up with. And you don't really know a lot about that until you're in the middle of it, unless somebody really sits you down and describes this is what's going to happen. I had a little bit of that, but I know how difficult it is to do. People have told me I should sue the hospital um, that put me in an incubator when I was born prematurely, simply because that could cause blindness. And other people have actually sued successfully 20 and 30 years after they were born.
okay,
They litigated, and yeah, I just felt, look, medical science had already started to be told that a pure oxygen environment could lead to what at that time was called retrolental hyperplasia, which is now retinopathy or prematurity. But I think 20, 30, and 40 years later, suing doesn't accomplish anything.
no,
And so my parents and I talked about it a lot, and we all agreed that that doesn't make any sense to do. And we didn't. And I
no.
have no regrets about that. But your situation is significantly different than that.
Yeah, we had to move house. We had to double our mortgage. We couldn't stay in the house we were in at the time.
Yeah.
Um, and yeah, it was a painful experience.
Yeah.
So yeah, we needed an adapted property at the end of the day, and we simply couldn't afford one. So
So you found one, or did you build one, or?
we couldn't find one. We actually brought one off plan,
Mhm.
um, and but we had to double our mortgage to do it. So
Yeah.
that was interesting. So that wasn't pleasurable at all, but we managed it. So
We had instances where we built a house from scratch. First one was a manufactured home, and
mm,
then we moved to New Jersey in 1996, and we built a house there because we couldn't find a house that we could relatively easily modify. And if you modify a home, the cost is so expensive because
mm,
you've got to redo doors, you've got to redo counters, you've got to redo a lot of things. That's assuming you can find one that doesn't have too many stairs for a person in a chair, and that you can ramp those. But if you build a home, there's really no additional cost other than the cost that we had in New Jersey because it was in an area where they only had two-story homes. So we did have to put an elevator in. So
okay.
that was an additional cost, but that was the only additional cost because, as you're pointing out, everything else was on plan and
Yeah.
you design it in. There's no additional cost for building lower counters if you're doing it from the outset.
Mm,
So
yes.
we did that. But then when we moved back to California, we couldn't find a place to build. And so then we did have to modify a home. And the problem is that you can't really put it in the mortgage. And it's a little different today than it was when we moved back out here in 2002. But um, we couldn't put it in the mortgage. So it was $150,000 that we had to find. And
Mm,
eventually it worked out as you pointed out with you. Then when we moved here to Southern California, we built this home, and
yeah.
I'm very glad that we did. It's a great house,
Yeah, we've got a lovely home now. It's fully adapted. It's great. It's large. I can get around quite easily. So it's very nice.
all one floor.
Mm. All one floor. Yeah.
Yeah,
It's extremely long.
there you go. Well, so you went back to university,
Yeah.
and clearly that was a major commitment and dedication on your part to decide to do that, but you did
Yeah.
it. What
We
was the
did.
university
Yeah.
like? How accessible was the university?
Oh, it wasn't accessible at all for me.
Uh-huh.
So I had a hospital manual wheelchair at the time,
Mm,
and I I couldn't push myself around because of my spinal damage and the spinal damage that I've got. I can't really push myself well in a manual wheelchair,
right.
and we didn't have any money for a scooter. So the first year, I was really struggling. Because we didn't know what services we could access. We didn't know what was available. I'm newly disabled. I'm new to this world, even though I work for social services. Until you're sitting in the chair, what you know about the world is absolutely nothing. Um, and so it wasn't until I came across disability services at the university who helped me apply for a grant with the Snowden Trust in the UK, and they provided me with an electric scooter. Wow, that was brilliant. I mean, oh my God, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It's like I found freedom because I was, so my university is called De Montfort University,
Mm-hmm.
and although it's not on a hill by any means whatsoever, there is a slope going all the way down to the main campus, and it's quite a long road, but the slope is very subtle. But
Scooter
if you're
helps.
yeah, but if you're pushing yourself in a manual wheelchair up that slope, by the time you get to the main road, you're absolutely exhausted. You just can't push yourself anymore.
Yeah.
Um, because it's about a quarter of a mile along the whole campus. And so yeah, I was pushing myself backwards with my foot on the floor up the hill to get to classes and stuff. And I just said, this is ridiculous. This can't carry on. And so I spoke to Disability Services and they helped me out. So
So
yeah.
what did you do once so you went through the university, you did
Yeah.
that, um, and you were committed to making it happen, and there had to be times that it would have been tempting to give up, but you didn't.
No, I wasn't really tempted to get up. I mean, I have side effects from my corticoid syndrome. I have like seizures in the legs,
Mm,
which can happen at any time, and that knocked me out for a few days.
yeah.
So I did get a few medical exemptions here or there, but the lecturers were more than happy knowing that I was capable of doing the work.
Yeah.
Um,
Which is cool.
yes, very much so. But I did have to have a couple of exemptions here or there, but nothing major. But while I was at university, that's when I set up the Facebook page, which is now known as Snowball Community. And that's what brings us to it. So
Right.
yeah,
So tell
so
us all about Snowball,
yeah,
and everybody should know that I teased um, at the very beginning. I said, "Well, now isn't it time that we should remember that Snowball was the name of the pig and animal farm,
yeah.
and Simon's not read Animal Farm, so
I've not read Animal Farm. Can't read. Sorry. Um,
well, go listen to it then. You know, it's not that
I
long of a
might do.
book.
I might
It's
do.
not that long.
Yeah. No. So when after a year of recovery, when I was going to university, so I went. So we were going out for a meal, and it's the first meal me and my wife went out following the injury. Okay, and there's a really nice place in Leicester, Spanish tapas, and it was the first time out in the wheelchair for a meal, and we couldn't get in. Okay, we called up, and the wheelchair wouldn't go through the door. There was a step at the front. And they're like, "Can you step over that?" I went, "No, not really." But what happened was as well, they put a table in front of the disabled entrance as well.
Oh, that was good.
Yeah, they had a ramp that went into the road. So that was interesting. And then the disabled toilet was upstairs. And so it was a mitigated disaster. It
Yeah,
really was. It was atrocious.
yeah.
And this, and we didn't know this. We know I've never paid attention to disabled access. Um, it's just something we'd never, I've never really been in a wheelchair before, so why would I?
Yeah.
And
Only if you took an interest, but most people
yeah,
wouldn't think of that.
exactly.
Yeah,
Yeah, exactly.
understandable.
So yeah, we just thought, what else can we not get into? And it turns out quite a lot. And so a couple of days later, I decided to set up a Facebook page. It was called Ability Access back then. It's now been rebranded Snowball Community. Um, and all it wasn't anything special. It was a very simple Facebook page, and it was to raise awareness of disabled access in the Leicester area. That's all I wanted it to do. I didn't want awards. I didn't want recognition. I didn't want any of that. But however, within I think it kind of triggered something in people.
It
I'm not
snowballed.
too, it snowballed. Yeah. Exactly. And I'm not too sure why or how, but I started putting up posts of pictures of things of places I couldn't get into and videos and, me being angry and so on and so forth.
Hmm.
And, within a month, I had 1,000 followers. Then it went to 2,000, then 5,000, and 10. It just kept on growing and growing and growing. Then we got nominated then the page got nominated for awards. He started winning awards. And that's when at the time, I decided I was going to create something, if I could, called Snowball Community, which was an app. I had the idea of a disability app, but I'll come to that in a second. And yeah, it just would not stop growing. At the moment, I think it's about 110,000 followers on social media. And in 2019, it became the most read disability page in the world.
Hmm.
Because people were sharing videos, people were sharing stories. We were reaching an audience of over 30 million people a month at one point. It just got absolutely crazy. And I couldn't carry on doing that. I mean, that took a lot of time. That took a lot of effort. And we just said, look, we can do something with this. We can use the audience. We've got an audience who follows it on a regular basis, who comments on a regular basis. And I said to Kate, we could do something really special here. And so I just, once I graduated, in 2018, I graduated from university with getting a 2-1 with honors in journalism. And I was working as a freelance journalist as well, which is great. It's because I could work whenever I like. But really, ability access with now Snowball just started to take over my life on the social media pages. And I said, look, we could design an app here and create an accessibility app. And it took years of design to try and get it right. It really did. We did consultations, but also we couldn't afford it at the time either. We had to raise money for it as well.
Hmm.
It was quite hard. And so no, it's at the moment, Snowball was launched last year. And we are looking to get 100 that it's won national awards. It's won. We came back from Barcelona last week. It won funding at a global award ceremony. And it's really snowballing. It's we're expecting 100,000 reviews on the app this year.
So do you, so have you created an actual nonprofit organization out of it, like snowball.org or anything like that?
No, I really wanted to. I wanted it to be a charity organization.
Yeah.
And the reason I wanted it to be a charity organization because I had assistance from a charity organization in the UK while at university. However, here in the UK, there are very strict rules and regulations on what you can spend the money on if you're a charity. And I wanted to set up a fund to help students who have disabilities at university, so I can do that. But also, I wanted to give 10% of the profits to local businesses who can't afford to do their own adaptations. We're talking small businesses, coffee shops, local cafes, bakers and butchers, and so on and so forth, fruit and veg shops, who simply haven't got the 10, 15 grand what's required to make their stores accessible. So I'm still have every intention of doing that, but I couldn't do that as a charity organization. The rules and regulations wouldn't allow me to spend the money where I wanted to and where I thought see fit where it's needed to do so for the communities across the UK. So I actually set it up as a limited company with the intention of putting 10% of the profit aside for local businesses to apply for grants when we start making money.
Yeah. Well, but that is, I would still say that is exciting. You're channeling all of that, and hopefully you'll be able to do some major things to help raise a lot of awareness. So what other kinds of things do you do to help raise awareness about disabilities and so on?
Yeah, so we're launching a number of profiles at the moment, a number of things. So what we're doing is I'm sure you have it in America as well. You probably for your restaurants and pubs and everything, you have something similar to a food safety hygiene certificate.
Yes.
I'm not too sure what you call it over there. We have a similar thing here. It's a rating from 1 to 5. Okay. And we're launching something called the Snowball Membership Scheme. And we're taking on 70 staff over the next few months to cover the whole of the UK. And what we're going to be doing is we're launching a scheme where businesses, whether it's Frankie and Benny's, Subway, McDonald's, can sign up to the system where we will go out and basically give you a disability consultation for 250 quid and give you a full breakdown of what you can improve on your business, but also give you an access rating that you can promote on social media and say, look, come to our business. We are disabled friendly. Yeah. But what that does is that creates a huge opportunity for businesses and the Snowball app because we are creating the biggest disability app in the world. And it tells you where you can access, where you can go, okay, where you can eat, where you can shop, but also more importantly, where you can spend your own money. And I was doing some research earlier today before this interview, and according to one, I think it was the Valuable 500, is the disabled community in America has $8 trillion of disposable income to spend on things like restaurants and cinema tickets and so on and so forth, to cafes and, pubs and shops and whatever per year. So $8 trillion is going unspent because the disabled community in America, which is 61 million, I believe, don't know where to spend their money.
Well, when you think about the fact that it's the largest minority worldwide, you hear anything from 20 to 25% of all persons have some sort of disability. The biggest challenge that I see is the problem is that the disabilities aren't uniform. That is, it isn't the same. The needs that you have to a degree are different than the needs that I have. The bottom line, however, is that even if you deal with it in that term, that everyone has different kinds of disabilities, the fact of the matter is it's still awareness. And while you need physical access to get into a restaurant, I need access to be able to know what's on the menu and know what it's going to cost. You don't have as much of a need for that as I do because you can lift a menu and read it in theory. But the fact is that we all have different challenges. And as I've said a couple of times on this podcast, we need to really redefine disability. First of all, disability doesn't mean a lack of ability at all. Dis isn't really the issue, because we do have terms like disciple, discrete. They're not all negative. And so disability is really something different than what people have made it into. Disability is a characteristic that everyone has, and it manifests itself differently. I love to say that the reality is, for most people, your disability is that you're light dependent, because most people don't do well in the dark. And Thomas Edison fixed it by inventing the light bulb, but it still is a disability, even if it's covered up, because most of the time you have light. Disability is a characteristic that everybody manifests. It's just that we do it in different ways.
No, I completely agree. I'm hoping that the system that I've created will address that. Because what we've done as well is it's not just the question of, we're going out there and is disabled friendly, is wheelchair accessible. We're doing a full disability consultation on the business. So do they have Braille menus? Do they have a change in place facility? Is there a lift? Is there Braille on the lift? That kind of thing. And we're also introducing something called the stimulation rating as well. And this is touch, taste, sight, see, and smell.
Mm-hmm.
And this is to give you an indication of what those things are at that place for people with visual impairments, for mental health issues and learning disabilities. Because, for example, if you go to the British Library, very quiet, it's going to be quiet, okay? If you go to the Natural History Museum in London, well, some days it's really nice and peaceful. On other days, because you've got 10 coaches of school children, absolutely chaotic. Okay.
Yeah.
So it does vary considerably. And the whole idea is while it's not a perfect rating system, because like you said, there are so many different types of disability. Not every disability is the same. Yours is different to mine. We're trying to incorporate a holistic approach to making sure that people feel comfortable going there, because they can relate to something that's on the assessment and they can see what's there, so they get the full report, and therefore they can have an independent decision on whether that place is suitable for them. So it's not a perfect system. Where it can be changed quite easily through feedback. It can be improved through feedback. It's like a moving model. At the moment, it's like 16 pages long, the assessment. But hopefully it will, with the feedback we're getting and how it will grow, it will hopefully evolve into something absolutely fantastic for everyone to be inclusive everywhere.
Well, and that's a cool thing clearly to do. One of the things that I know well is that you and I were introduced by Sheldon Lewis at Accessiby. Sheldon is in the nonprofit part of Accessiby and helping to find places that need internet access and who are nonprofits, especially in the disability world, and helps provide Accessiby for that. And I don't know whether you all are doing much yet with Accessiby, but clearly it's a great place to get involvement. And the whole issue of internet website access is a horrible thing. I mean, we have so many websites being created every minute, and the reality is that none of the major internet website building companies, including Microsoft and Google, do nothing to insist that if a website is being built, it has to be accessible right from the outset. So, Accessiby is a great, inexpensive way to help with all that. And I'm assuming that Sheldon and you are working on that somewhat.
Yes, we are. We've had a discussion. Unfortunately, Accessiby isn't available on apps at the moment, but that is something they're working on. And they're hoping to introduce it soon. So I'm hoping once it's available on the apps, I will, of course, incorporate it. But it is,
however, the reality is that restaurants and other places do create websites, and people go to websites. And so that's right now the place where Accessiby can make a significant difference.
Yeah, absolutely. And I completely agree. They should have it on there.
Yeah. So that is certainly one place where, we can help. And certainly every restaurant should have an accessible website. And if they're going to have menus on the website, then there are certainly guidelines on ways to make those accessible.
Yeah.
And that is part of what needs to be done.
Yes, and I completely agree with you and support it, of course.
Yeah, and you're right. Apps today, that's a different process. It's a different animal, um, but it will come, and that'll be something that we'll be
Yeah,
able to see. But in the short
I,
term,
yeah, I've told Sheldon straight away we'll get it on there straight away as soon as they've done the development for the apps for accessibility.
yeah. But right now, well, okay. But right now for your app, it could be accessible. You just build it that way, but it's not the app. But every restaurant should have an accessible website, and that really ought to be part of what you look at when you're going to a restaurant to explore what and how accessible they are. Having accessible and inclusive websites is certainly something that is very straightforward to do today.
Yes, it is. But businesses are lazy.
Well, but they also that they are, but they also think that it's more expensive than it needs to be, and that's part of the whole issue. I mean, if you go to a restaurant and it's not accessible because you can't get into it,
Mm.
um, so they're still lazy. They didn't make it accessible right from the outset, and either
Mm.
they're going to or they're not. And it's a lot. No offense in any way intended, but it's a lot less expensive to make a website accessible than it is to modify an entrance so that you can get in with a wheelchair when there are steps or a very narrow door.
Yeah,
So
it is.
the
Yeah,
laziness
and
goes all ways.
yeah, and hopefully, if they do have an issue with that, hopefully Snowball can help out with that with the grant that we want to provide to small businesses.
Yeah. Yeah. And I understand that most businesses are pretty small and don't necessarily have a lot of money to spend. But with websites, that's where accessibility can make a big difference right from the outset,
Yeah, absolutely.
which is pretty cool.
Yeah.
So what's next as you go forward with Snowball? What's the future going to hold?
Oh my God. Right. So, I mean, we're having a huge expansion. As I said, we're taking on about 70 staff to cover the whole of the UK. We're actually looking to franchise it as well across North America and
Mm-hmm.
Europe. We've also asked to be consultants for a number of governments as well. So it's going from strength to strength to strength every week. We keep on getting inquiries. We've got customers signed up already for the assessments for the membership schemes. Loads in London. London's really taking off quite nicely. So it's where we're going at the moment is I don't know, but in a couple of years' time, I think we're going to be a major player in the app world for accessibility because we already are we are the biggest disability app in the world at the moment,
Mm-hmm.
by a long, long way,
Right.
by tens of thousands of reviews. So nobody's really going to catch up with Snowball, but we still need people to use it on a regular basis. That's the thing, because all the information we get is user generated. Okay, in the UK we're doing really well. In America, we need a bit more help. Yeah. But I was doing another podcast a couple of weeks ago in America, and there's a chap who wants to give us 10,000 locations of petrol stations across America where because he doesn't know where to post it. He's got all this information on accessible fueling stations across America where they'll come out and help you to fill your gas and stuff and help you to pay for it. And he's just got no idea where to post it. So
Mm-hmm.
apparently we think he's going to we're in early stages of talks, and he wants to give us that information to help people to travel across America, and so they know where they can go and get their car filled up with assistance. So it's just we need people like that to leave reviews, to add places, to use it on a regular basis. Even if you spot a disabled car parking bay, you can add that. If you find an accessible toilet, add the accessible toilet. If you find an accessible restaurant, add the restaurant. Even if you find an inaccessible restaurant, add the inaccessible restaurant because it will stop people going there and being disappointed. So all that information is extremely relevant to help people to live a more independent life. So we need as many people across the world, including America, to
Right.
download the app to add reviews like you would on TripAdvisor. It's TripAdvisor for the disabled community. We just need more reviews and more people to use it on a regular basis, and it will grow considerably. And therefore, once that's grown, we can start helping people more with like booking cinema tickets, booking airline travel, holidays, and expand it that way as well. Because once businesses know that you're booking it through Snowball, then they know you need extra assistance. So
Has Sheldon talked to you about Access Find?
no.
Okay. Access is, again, right now it's website oriented, but Access Find is a database that Accessibility created of accessible websites. And any
Okay.
website can say, we have made our website accessible, and it's checked, but then when it is, then they are included in Access Find, and it might be interesting to
Okay.
explore that, both in terms of websites, but finding ways to expand it. So we can explore that and talk
Okay.
about that more.
Excellent.
So
Brilliant.
what motivates you? I mean, you're doing a lot. Why?
It's the frustration of not being able to. So, I mean, you have to remember, for 32 years, I was fully independent. I could go anywhere in the world I wanted to. Okay. And it's the frustration that the world is not, I'm not going to say it's not welcoming because that's not quite right. I'm going to say uneducated. And the ignorance of that everyone can access everything after having an injury like mine is very small-mindedness. And I get frustrated that because I travel a lot for work, I travel all over the world. And when we turn up to places, we haven't got the right room, we can't access the hotel, we can't access the restaurant.
Yeah.
It's got to the point where we don't choose where we want to go, the place chooses us.
Yeah.
And I don't think that's fair.
No.
And so I just want an equal opportunity world. That's what I don't like being turned away from places where we want to go for a family meal. I don't like being turned away from the cinema because the disabled seat's so close to the screen. It's it's just it frustrates me, and that's what I think that's what keeps me going. But also as well is when I was in hospital, because I got told I would never sit up again. I got told I was going to be on my back for life. Okay. And I'm very fortunate where I am. I mean, I know that sounds really stupid because I'm paralyzed from the waist down. But I am very fortunate where I am. And I see, especially from a social services point of view, there are so many more people worse off than I am. Okay. And I just want to help them as much as I can. I want to give them choice. I want to give them a bit of independence. I want them to have that freedom of not being restricted to, five places to go and eat, or the only place you can go to the cinema. I want you to, or the only tourist attraction you can visit. I want them to be fully inclusive. I want them to have a good life, and I think Snowball can help a lot of people do that.
Well, that's
So,
cool. So if people want to learn more about Snowball, or access the app and so on, how do they do that?
yeah.
And how do they
There's a
reach out to you?
Yeah, I'm on LinkedIn, Simon Sansom. Just send me a message. That's not a problem at all.
Spell, if you would, please.
Yeah, SAN for November, SOM for Mother, E for Echo.
And first name Simon, Simon.
Yeah, that's correct.
Okay.
You can also email us at support at snowball.community. That will go through to the team. And yeah. Anyway, you can download the app. It's on Apple and Android. It's under Snowball Community. And you can also go to the website snowballassessment.com. And it's got all the details there. If you want to interested in becoming an assessor, if your business wants to sign up to the scheme, and then it's got the apps on there as well. So, and
Cool.
lots more information about me as well and the business.
Well, Simon, I want to really thank you for being here with us and taking all this time to talk about Snowball and talk about you. And I'm glad that you are so open and transparent about all of it. And I hope people will take it to heart and that they will seek you out. They will learn more about Snowball. They'll learn more about you and what you do. And clearly, I think you have inspired a lot of people through what we've talked about today. And if there's any way we can help, you need to definitely let me know. But I really appreciate you being here. And I want to thank you all for listening to us today as well. So reach out to Simon, Snowball Community, and you can, as he said, find the app and so on. So please do that. I would appreciate you giving us a 5-star rating wherever you're listening to Unstoppable Mindset. And I would love your thoughts and your comments and your opinions. Please give them freely. We appreciate it. If you know of anyone who might make a good guest, and Simon and you as well, I'd love you to email me. You can reach me at michaelhi@accessibe.com. That's michaelhi@accessibe, accessibe.com. Or go visit our podcast page, www.michaelhingson.com/podcast. Michael Hingson is spelled michaelhingson. So michaelhingson.com/podcast. But we really appreciate you taking the time to listen to us. And Simon, I really appreciate you taking the time to be here today. And we should do this again.
Absolutely. Happy to.
You have been listening to the Unstoppable Mindset Podcast. Thanks for dropping by. I hope that you'll join us again next week and in future weeks for upcoming episodes. To subscribe to our podcast and to learn about upcoming episodes, please visit www.michaelhingson.com/podcast. Michael Hingson is spelled MichaelHingson. While you're on the site, please use the form there to recommend people who we ought to interview in upcoming editions of the show. And also, we ask you and urge you to invite your friends to join us in the future. If you know of anyone or any organization needing a speaker for an event, please email me at speaker@michaelhingson.com. I appreciate it very much. To learn more about the concept of blinded by fear, please visit www.michaelhingson.com/blinded by fear. And while you're there, feel free to pick up a copy of my free ebook entitled Blinded by Fear. The Unstoppable Mindset Podcast is provided by AccessCast, an initiative of Accessibe, and is sponsored by Accessibe. Please visit www.accessibe.com. Accessibe is spelled ACCESSIBE. There you can learn all about how you can make your website inclusive for all persons with disabilities and how you can help make the internet fully inclusive by 2025. Thanks again for listening. Please come back and visit us again next week.
Hey, it's Candy. Did you know that I have a quiz to help coaches choose their niche? Yeah, I do. It's super popular, and it has been taken more than 20,000 times. This is a fun quiz that takes you about 2 minutes to do, and it will probably give you way more clarity on choosing your best coaching niche. So now, whether you say niche or niche, it's going to work for you. And if you're a coach and you have been stuck in niche indecision, wondering what to do, then you should take my quiz and find out what you learn. You can take the quiz today at coachnichequiz.com. That's coachnichequiz.com. Okay, let's dive into this week's episode.